Hello and welcome back to my craft room. If you're a regular viewer, you may know that I have been I did a whole series of videos about how I was making danglers for my dangler tree. Not just for Christmas, but for all year round. I made them out of rescued fabrics that come in the bizarre scrap bundles. Here's just one of them. Some of them, so there were bells and balls and squishies and hearts. There's no hearts on that one actually. Some of them were quite more sort of subtle colour combinations like this. Some of them were really airy and bright. I will link to the Bazaar playlist, and you'll find all of those at the top of that playlist at the moment. You'll notice on the top of that one is one of these little birds. Now I didn't make the birds, these came in amongst the Bazaar scrap packs. Sometimes they're like that, sometimes they're little fancy bright colourful ones like this. Hang on. And you can make these really easily, just making little scraps of fabric. I did link to a couple of videos I found that show you how to make these. And then, because I was saying jokingly all the way through, or half jokingly, all the way through the Dangler project, that you don't have to have Bazaar packs to do this. They are lovely to use. It's a great way to showcase some of the beautiful scraps of fabric you get in those packs. But you can make it with whatever you've got. You could use old t-shirts, old Christmas jumpers. Have a look and see what you can find in charity shops. You know, use what you've got. You don't have to go out and buy something specially. And then as I say, only half jokingly said you could even make them with your old underwear. Then I've just got it into my head one day last week, a week or so ago, that I would actually make some out of my old knickers just to prove it was possible. And I got the most amazing reaction to it. Mostly very, very favourable. A couple of comments that from people that weren't very impressed with the idea at all. I'll say no more. But I will just say that I really liked the look of them. As I say, mostly, so did everybody else. There were just one or two people who really weren't impressed with the idea. But hey ho, I'm not going to go any further into that. I also wanted to have a go at making the birds, and I was so chuffed with how this one came out. I think because of the slight stretch in the fabric, it shaped it really nicely. And I got it into my head that I want to do 4 and 20. So the old nursery rhyme of 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. Going to be doing that in the new year out of my old knickers. And I'm going to make them into a mobile, and I'm going to make a little container to keep the mobile in that's shaped like a pie with the lid that you take the lid of the pie off. Can I just reassure people that if anyone's thinking of doing something like this with their old undies, using your old underwear is not an infection risk. It really isn't. To be fair, I didn't use the crutch part of the knickers because it just seemed a bit, I was using the other part of the fabric. There's quite a lot of fabric in my knickers, to be fair, these days. So, yeah, I just found that quite laughable. But hey ho, never mind. And for the person that said they put their old bras and knickers in the bin, don't put your bras in the bin unless they're really ropey. There are always people who are glad of those, whether you give them to charity shops in your own country or thrift stores or op shops, whatever they are where you live, or there are charities that will take them and send them abroad to places where women are not as fortunate as us and would really be glad of your old bras. So please don't put them in the bin. Joking aside, please don't put old bras in the bin unless they're really, not fit to give to someone else. Somebody would be really glad of those. What I thought I'd do now is, because it was quite hard to demonstrate what I was doing on black fabric because of camera issues, I thought and I didn't have any colourful underwear that I'm prepared to cut up. I thought I'd have a look for old t-shirts. Couldn't really find any t-shirts I'm happy to cut up either. But then I remembered I've got these scraps of stretch fabric that I got in a pack from Megan Crook Textiles a while back. You can buy their offcuts and things. And these are some of the larger pieces. And they're not old knickers, but they are very much the kind of fabric that knickers and vests and things would be made of. This kind of quite a high cotton content, but it's also obviously got some synthetic in it, and there's definitely some stretch in it. So what I'm going to do is make some of these knicker birds out of this stuff so I can show what I'm doing a bit more clearly. When I come to do my 4 and 20 knicker birds mobile, they're all going to be done in the black. So I will just make the birds off camera for that and come back to show you how I'm making the pie. For the pie, I found an old vest that I can use for the pie, and I'm going to coffee dye it to make it pie coloured. I'm not going to worry, I'm not going to be too pernickety about what size I cut these. I don't care if they come out different sizes. What I'm going to aim to do is cut the biggest size square I can out of each piece. So for this one, I don't want to make it too little, but we could do some small ones. My idea with these is to make as little waste as possible. I've got other ideas for what I'm going to do with these pieces coming up in the new year to turn them into wearable things, but I just thought, well, I'll sacrifice a few pieces because they're perfect for this. So I'm not going to throw any of these tiny bits away because I think they can be used for the project I've got in mind. So here I'm looking at that and thinking, how big is that? A couple of inches. Let's make it a couple of inches the other way. So this will be ideal for anybody that wanted to try this project but really couldn't bear to actually use their own knickers. One person apparently couldn't even bear to watch the video. Just the thought of it. Which of course I found hilarious. I just don't understand how would it be an infection risk? Who is going to get infected with what? By me. Me. Making things with the fabric from my old knit. I don't get it. I don't get it. Apparently it was recycling gone crazy. I think that is health and safety gone crazy. I really do. Anyway, enough said. I keep saying I'm not going to say any more and then I keep on. So there we are. I've ended up with more or less a square, but I'm not going to be too pernickety about it. And now I'm going to fold that square in half. Just put a pin there for a minute. I won't normally bother to use a pencil to do this, but I'm just, let's go for I'll use a heat erasable pen, but I don't think it's really going to show anyway, but so I'm just going to freehand cut this, but I just wanted to show you kind of what I'm doing a bit more clearly. So this is to get this kind of rounded shape here for the head. I'm just going to cut. It's a bit hard to draw on this because it's stretchy fabric. I'm just going to cut a shape kind of like that. And then I'm also going to round off this bottom edge. See, it's not worth trying to draw this on because it's too stretchy. This is just for me to demonstrate. So that's what I'm aiming at. And I'm looking at the shape of these birds for kind of inspiration, but that's a very basic one. This one's actually got a beak, so you can see it's sort of pointy one end. They put a little fluffy bit for a tail, which it looks like they've stitched on afterwards. So this, I'm more looking at this one, and some of the demonstrations I've seen have actually enclosed a little bit of something fluffy for the tail. They've enclosed it in as they're stitching. I learnt my lesson from last time and wished, instead of leaving the opening here, stitching all the way around and leaving an opening here, I wished I'd stitched around here and left an opening further down here. So that's what I'm going to do this time. So I might try just leaving a little bit of fluff in here for the tail, see how that looks. So what I will do in practice is I won't draw that out first. I will just round off this bottom corner, round off this point that will become the head. These really small bits like this will go in my orts jar, so nothing will get wasted, so I can use what's in my orts jar to stuff the birds with. But because they're quite small, I wouldn't use really big bits. I'd just use more the sort of thready bits that I've got in my orts jar. If anybody's wondering about how I made this, I also made it out of the Bazaar scrap packs, and so you'll find the video where I made this will also be in the Bazaar playlist. It's a really handy little thing because you can actually as well as having a space for your pins, like a pin cushion, you've also got space for needles, and there's enough room there to put a couple of bobbins of embroidery floss in, wrap up your scissors, and just roll the whole lot up and take it downstairs or wherever you're gonna, for me it's take it downstairs to stitch with in the evening. So let's just give myself a little knot to start with. You just need quite small scraps to make the beak shape with. So with this one I'm gonna just fold it down like this to start with. I just want to end up with a rough triangular shape. And the thing is with this ribbon is it doesn't want to hold its crease, so it's a bit more awkward to manage. So I could fold it back that way, or I could fold it in this way. Let's do that. Fold it in again. And I've just got that little kind of beakish shape. I want to put the beak inside, pointing to the inside so that it comes out on the outside when I turn the bird the right way out, if that makes sense. You'll see in a minute anyway. So I'm gonna put it in there so that it looks like just about the right amount is gonna stick out. So just about like that. Close it over. And now, because I've got my needle all ready threaded now, I'm going to just stitch through this beak first to hold that in place. Because this is the awkward bit, really. Just put a couple of stitches there just to anchor everything. You can see that that ribbon is wanting to fray away, but it will be on the inside in a minute, so it won't matter. Okay, I've done a couple of double stitches there, and now I'm going to head up towards the top here because I've got this. I need to close this bit. This is just to hold the really a tacking stitch to hold the beak in there. So now I'm going to take my needle right up to here, and I'm going to leave quite a small seam allowance. Don't need a lot because I only have to clip it off anyway. And I'm turning this around so I can work in a direction that's comfortable for me. I'm starting right at the top here where it's folded, and now I'm going to do small. I haven't kept that together very well. It is extremely difficult when you're holding things out at arm's length. It makes you look really cack-handed. It makes it look more difficult than it is, because if you're holding it at a normal, comfortable position, it's a lot easier, and you can probably see what you're doing. So now I'm going to run a line of quite small back stitch. I could maybe have pinned that bit. I think if the beak wasn't made of ribbon that was trying to bounce open again, it would have been easier. And I'm trying to keep my stitches reasonably small so that it doesn't look too gappy when I stuff the bird. Turn him right way out and stuff him. I'm not being over fussy about the stitching. I'll show you in a second. Here we go. It's a bit of a mess there where I put the beak in. I might find that once I've finished stitching around here, that these initial stitches that I did to just tack that beak in shape while I got started, I will take those out, because I think otherwise they're going to show when I turn it right way out. And I mean, this is literally only the third one of these birds I've made, so I'm still finding my way as I go along. I'm going to go around here and just sort of under that belly part, and then I'm going to stop so that I leave an opening for stuffing with. It's easier to, if you leave a stuffing opening, leave it on a straight stretch, because otherwise it's awkward to close it up neatly. It's almost impossible. And one lady I saw on YouTube made these little birds really small. I think she called them beads. She made them really small, so I'm going to try making a tiny one in a minute, just out of interest. Right, so I've come to this straight stretch now. I'm going to put a couple extra stitches in to make sure those don't come undone. And now put a couple of little snippets of this fibre in. I'll just take a piece like that and fold it. It could be anything, any little bit of fluff, something out your orts jar, anything. You could cut a little scrap of something else, you know, just anything, just to give that little fluffy bit. You can see what they do here to give it that sort of that look of these Indian ones. Put this inside right at the corner, I think. Oops, inside, just like I did with the beak. You could definitely do like they've done with the one I just showed you, where they've stitched the fibre through afterwards. You could just do it with, you know, use a darning needle or something and put wool or embroidery floss or something like that through to make a little fluffy tail. or you could just leave it tail off altogether. I didn't put one on my blackbird, and it don't really need it, so totally up to you, it's your bird. I'm going to call these knicker birds, even though these ones aren't actually made of knickers, but they're just going to be more exotic birds than I could ever make out of my knickers. I've gone past where the tail is, that's all secured in there. A few extra stitches again, finish it off with a knot. And hopefully when I turn this the right way out now, I'm going to get the needle out of the way for a minute, but I'm going to leave that threaded up because hopefully I can use that thread to close the opening with. That opening is just about big enough to do that comfortably. And let's see. Here's this little tail coming out. Okay. Cute. And we should find his little beak popping through in a moment. Where are you, little beak? There it is. It's popping through. It's popping through. Fingers crossed. Oh, his head's turned out a slightly different shape this time. Let's pick that right out. You find with these stretchy fabrics, they'll turn them out, but they'll try and bounce back. I like his beak's come out a completely different shape, but I really like it. I'm going to use some polyfill because, as I say, I've got some to use and it's nice and quick and easy, but don't think you've got to use polyfill if you don't want to or you don't have any. Use whatever you've got. Bits out your jar, trimmings off the fabric, bits of odds and ends of wool, whatever you've got. I'll try and leave that thread there to use in a minute. And this is where you do need to make those, a couple extra stitches at either end of the opening, just because you're now going to be pushing stuffing in and you don't want them coming undone. I'm just trying to make sure that I push that stuffing right into the head. It's always surprising how much stuffing these things take. I would say if you are going to use scraps of fabric and things to stuff these, just make sure they're quite small pieces, otherwise it's going to come out all a bit lumpy. But these traditional ones, they're quite hard. They're stuffed quite hard with odds and ends of threads and things, offcuts and stuff, so yeah, they work really well. They're a bit harder to stitch through, but if you're only sort of adding stitching on the outside, they're fine. I won't need to add a lot of stitching to these because they're quite colourful patterned fabrics anyway, but I might just add a few sequins just because I can. That's still come undone though. Didn't do a very good job of that, did I? I need to go back over that bit. That's okay. Right, so I think he's ready to be stitched up. Somehow that's just accidentally ended up making a really fun shaped beak, almost like a parrot beak, but that's complete accident. I'll probably never be able to do it again. So I've only been filming for about half an hour now, and that includes my, my waffle at the beginning and everything. So you can see it's quite quick to do, and I'm sure as I make a few of these, I will get quicker as time goes on. I should probably close this up with a ladder stitch. To do a ladder stitch, I've started off on my thread's coming out of that side, and I'm going to go straight across to the other side, take a small stitch along. This is one of the reasons why I always use what looks like an enormous needle, because it's easier to show you what I'm doing, I think. I'm making sure these raw edges to the inside as I go. This is probably easier to do with not stretch fabric because it won't keep trying to bounce back. And now I'm going straight across again back to that first side and a little stitch along, and so on until you've closed up the whole gap. And that's going to join up quite nicely. I'm going to get it under my nose now and see if I can do a bit better job of it, because I can see what I'm doing, and I'll come back and show you in a moment. There we go. I finished going along there, and I went all the way back along as well, just to be sure. I think that's pretty secure now. It's not, it's not perfect stitching. I don't think it matters for these. You could definitely get carried away. You could do some really fun little embroidery stitch along here. You could do a blanket stitch along there or something like that, or a Y stitch down the seam. That could be really fun. I might try some like that. Add a little bit of extra colour. These are pretty colourful already though. So I've just brought that thread out now to the other side, just so I can lose the thread inside the body. Pull that up a little bit and snip it, let it spring back. I haven't had these very long and they're blunt already. It's very annoying. And then I will just untwizzle this these little fibres to fluff this tail out a bit more. Shape him a little bit in my hand. I suspect that each one of these little birds is going to come out different, but I think he's cute. I think he's really cute, and I think when you've got them all strung up together with perhaps colourful beads in between, I can dot some sequins around, give it a bit of sparkle. Definitely be doing that. I can use up some really colourful sparkly beads with these and make it lovely. That is going to be the basic method for all of them. I don't think there's any need for me to show you more than the making of more than one. I'm going to do a few more, maybe add some embroidery to some, but I think for most people like slow stitchers watching this, you'll know what slow stitching you'll enjoy doing into this, whether it's just cover it with straight stitching like I did with this one, just add some straight stitching in there. That's always fun to do and it always looks lovely. Or just pick up, just stitch into the pattern that's already in the fabric. Add some little cross stitches and things in the same colours that are there. Add some sequins. You know, whatever you feel like doing. I'm gonna knock out a few more now, and then come back and show you how they look when I've got a little flock of them going on. I haven't quite got a flock, but I've run out of time, so I've come back to show you what I've got. I've tried a few different ideas. Doing a simple straight stitch around this one to see what that would look like. I've made 3 and I've just tried a few different little ideas to show you. I think this is probably going to be my favourite, just doing a bit of really simple straight stitching, because I just find that so relaxing. I think it looks quite cute, whether it's done in colours to match the fabric or contrast. Just adds a little bit of interest, and I could still put some sequins on top of that as well. You can see that looks quite cute, just like that. I think that's to show a different colour. I didn't do anything else with the face, with the eye or beak or anything on that one. This one, this little parroty one, I did a contrast, just decorative stitching over there. Just, you know, it was already stitched together. I just did that for a bit of contrast because I always quite like the look of that. And I took a stitch right through, back and forth a few times to create the eyes, and did a little French knot on each side, which I quite like the look of as well. And then this one, I tried some different ideas. I messed up the beak on this one. I don't like how I've done the beak, but it's okay. You'd never notice it hanging up amongst a whole load of others. But I tried just stitching this little felt heart on, very rough and ready, just playing with ideas to show you the kind of different effects you can get. And that one I've done a feather stitch down there and some sequins. And I've just stitched through there. I didn't do the French knot. And you could also get a little bead. It would look lovely with little beady eyes, wouldn't it? Let's get my little thumbnail now. So there we go. That's my little, let's call it a gaggle of knicker birds. I can't call it a flock, not yet. But I'm going to carry on. They're so addictive to make. I've run out of time now, but actually they really don't take very long. And I love that each one is coming out slightly different with its own little funny expression. Let's turn them over and show the other sides. And I think you could do them with any, let me come back up here, you do them with whatever you've got. So the stretch in the fabric, the slight stretch in the fabric does really help that shape, although it's a little bit more pernickety to stitch with. So yeah, even if you do it with normal cotton, woven cotton, because you're folding that square in half diagonally, it's kind of on the bias, so you get a little bit of give in the fabric in that direction anyway. So it's still, that's how these are such a nice shape. So yeah, I would say don't go out and buy anything specially. Have a look in your knicker drawer. Have a look around, see what you've got, old t-shirts and things, anything. Have a go, and you could try all sorts of, whether you just want to leave it kind of pretty much plain like that one, or do a little bit of stitching or applique, or add some sequins like that one, or just enjoy a bit of straight stitching like I did with that one. You can't really see it there, can you? Whichever way you want to do it. I think it's really fun, and you can use up the tiniest scraps of fabric, which I always love. I didn't try the really tiny one because I just wanted to get those things finished really quickly, but I am going to try some little, like about this size ones, but I think they're going to be a bit more fiddly to stitch. They might be easier to do in something like felt, I think, but yeah, anyway, that's it from me today. I need to go and crack on and get dinner on the go before my husband quite wastes away. Thank you very much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye.